Hey, yo, wait. Oh. You thought you was gonna pull up to the post game and see KTV all mad and upset, right? Oh no, celebrate!
There is a fundamental principle in both moral philosophy and championship basketball, the concept of social obligation. When a group of individuals steps onto the hardwood, they enter into a silent, binding contract with one another. They willingly sacrifice a portion of their absolute free will, the choice to do whatever they want, whenever they want, with the basketball, in order to fulfill their duty to the collective system. A true team operates as a single, breathing organism. But when that contract is actively broken, when individual desires supersede the collective duty, you do not merely lose basketball games. You experience a structural collapse. You experience what the sports world brutally but accurately calls a choke job. This is WNBA time. And today, we are forcing ourselves to watch the tape of a tragedy. We are breaking down the catastrophic fourth-quarter collapse of the Indiana Fever, a collapse that exposes a far deeper, more insidious problem within the organization. We are witnessing the systematic sabotage of Caitlin Clark, orchestrated not by opposing defenses, but by the isolation-heavy choices of Kelsey Mitchell and the baffling passive enablement of head coach Stephanie White. To understand how a team chokes away a late-game lead, you cannot simply look at the final missed shots. A missed shot is just a symptom. You have to trace the disease back to its origin. You have to analyze the structural decay of the offense over the course of 4 quarters. When a franchise drafts a generational playmaker, a visionary whose entire identity is built on manipulating defensive rotations and distributing the basketball, the paramount duty of the coaching staff is to protect that player's rhythm. The system must be designed to empower her choices. Instead, the Indiana Fever have constructed a psychological prison.
Just about 5 layups in the fourth quarter. Celebrate! We need more idiotic decisions like Stephanie Bonehead White subbing Caitlin Clark out with a 12-point lead in the third. Before you even blink twice, it's a 5-point game, and the game has turned upside down just like it did versus the Washington Mystics, just like it did versus the Portland Fire, just like we have continued to watch Stephanie White be an idiotic head coach. Celebrate, because this gets us one step closer to Caitlin.
When you watch that footage, you are not just seeing a broken play, you are seeing a broken spirit. The Caitlin Clark that dictated the geometry of the basketball court at Iowa is being actively suppressed by a system that refuses to grant her the authority she was drafted to wield. But a system does not exist in a vacuum. It is executed by players, and it is governed by a coach. This brings us to the most uncomfortable reality of the Indiana Fever roster, the isolation paradigm of Kelsey Mitchell. Let us be completely objective. Kelsey Mitchell is a phenomenally gifted scorer. She possesses an explosive first step, elite shot creation ability, and a relentless drive to put the ball in the basket. In a vacuum, her talent is undeniable. But basketball is not played in a vacuum. It is an exercise in resource allocation. Every single time Mitchell decides to wave off a screen, ignore the offensive structure, and plunge headfirst into a one-on-one isolation possession, she is making a definitive choice. She is choosing her own offensive rhythm over the collective duty of the team. When the game gets tight, when the pressure mounts and the opposing defense tightens its grip, the structural integrity of your offense is tested. This is the exact moment when you need your visionary point guard to make the critical choices. You need Caitlin Clark to run the high pick and roll, read the weak side tag, and find the open shooter. But instead, the Indiana Fever devolve into a chaotic, desperate display of hero ball.
Liberty are going to start trapping the Indiana Fever and watch what happens. And boy, oh boy, did they in the second half. The Indiana Fever looked like a 5th grade team who went against a full court press for the first time in their lives. You had Raven Johnson throwing the ball all over the place. Kelsey Mitchell just got out there gunning. She's a hot dog. She's a ball hawk. Let me ask you guys something. Did Kelsey Mitchell and Aaliyah Boston look like a combined $7.4 million out there today? I'll take a sip while you think about it. Absolutely not. Kelsey Mitchell was...
That sequence right there is the definition of tactical sabotage. It is not malicious, it is instinctual, but it is entirely destructive to the social obligation of the offense. When a player dominates the ball to that extreme degree, turning into what fans painfully label a ball hog, the rest of the team is relegated to the role of spectators. The spacing collapses. The off-ball movement completely dies because players subconsciously realize they are not going to receive the pass even if they cut to the basket. What happens to Caitlin Clark in this environment? Her rhythm shatters. A point guard is like a metronome. They require the ball to establish the pace, to feel the defense, to calibrate their passing angles. When you freeze your point guard out of the primary action for 5, 6, 7 consecutive possessions, you cannot expect her to magically hit a contested 30-footer when you finally decide to toss her a grenade with 2 seconds left on the shot clock. You have already broken her rhythm. You have sabotaged her physiological connection to the game. But a player taking bad shots is only half of the equation. The far greater failure lies with the authority figure who allows those choices to continue unchecked. The duty of a head coach is not simply to draw up plays on a whiteboard. It is to establish boundaries. It is to enforce the social contract of the team. When a player deviates from the system and prioritizes isolation over collective execution, the coach has an absolute moral and tactical obligation to intervene. Stephanie White is failing in that obligation.
While Caitlin Clark was on the court? This is a joke. Stephanie White needs to be fired or just trade Caitlin Clark. Raven Johnson, 2 of 7, 0 of 2 from 3 for 6 points. Your ass damn near needed, you was having mental health issues because Caitlin Clark waved you off in college because your ass couldn't shoot. All of a sudden you get on Caitlin Clark's team and you can't stop shooting. You just shooting and shooting and shooting. What are you doing? You've never been a scorer. Your whole life you ain't been a scorer. Now when you on the court with Caitlin Clark, you look at—
Watching the sideline during this choke job is an exercise in maddening frustration. Where is the accountability? Where is the forceful timeout to reset the offensive hierarchy? When Kelsey Mitchell forces her 3rd consecutive contested layup against a collapsing defense, a proficient coach does not just clap their hands and yell, "Get back on defense." A proficient coach stops the game. They pull the players into the huddle, they look their isolation scorer in the eye, and they remind them of their duty to the team structure. They demand that the ball returns to the hands of the primary playmaker. By remaining passive, Stephanie White is not just allowing the sabotage of Caitlin Clark, she is actively co-signing it. Her silence on the sideline is a tacit endorsement of the chaos on the floor. This systemic failure reached its absolute breaking point in the final 4 minutes of the game. A choke job is a psychological unraveling. When the structure is already fragile because of selfish offensive choices and passive coaching, the slightest bit of defensive pressure causes the entire foundation to collapse. The Indiana Fever held a late lead. The mandate was simple: control the clock, execute high-percentage actions, and trust the point guard. Instead, we witnessed a complete abandonment of fundamental basketball principles.
Subber and trader. That's it. You can have your Kelsey Mitchell, Raven Johnson, Aaliyah Boston show. Let Caitlin Clark go elsewhere and be great. It's over. Monique Billings, shout out to you. You've been under a lot of scrutiny. You had a hell of a game. 15 points, 8 rebounds. She didn't touch the ball in the 4th quarter. She didn't touch the ball because Kelsey Mitchell was too busy jacking up shots left and right. Every time she touched it. It's ridiculous, man. Aaliyah Boston was 6 of 15.
You cannot win in professional basketball when the concept of duty is abandoned in the 4th quarter. The late-game execution was non-existent. The defensive rotations, which require supreme communication and trust, completely vanished. Why? Because players who are frustrated by a selfish offensive system rarely expend maximum energy on the defensive end. The psychological toll of watching one player dominate the basketball while the coach does nothing breeds a deep, toxic resentment. That resentment manifests as late closeouts, missed boxouts, and a general lack of urgency when the game is on the line. Caitlin Clark is being tested in a way she has never experienced before. She is not just battling the opposing team, she is battling the structural limitations of her own environment. She is learning the harsh reality that ultimate free will on the court does not exist for a rookie, no matter how generational their talent might be. She is bound by the choices of a teammate who refuses to share the spotlight and a coach who refuses to enforce the law.
Blow it up. And the only way it gets blown up, we need them to lose and sink to the depths of hell in the WNBA standings. I'm going for the Mystics on Monday. I'm rooting for Caitlin Clark to get off and do her thing and score and have a great game. I don't want this team winning. You think I want to validate Kelsey Mitchell shooting the ball every time she touch it? Absolutely not. This team had a 12-point lead in the third quarter. Caitlin Clark comes out for 90.
The Indiana Fever organization is standing at the precipice. This choke job is a massive, blinding warning light on the dashboard. You cannot continue to operate this way and expect to build a championship culture. The front office and the coaching staff have to make a definitive choice. They must decide whether they are going to honor their duty to the generational talent they drafted, or if they are going to allow this team to sink into the quicksand of isolation basketball and passive leadership. Stephanie White must take control of her locker room. Kelsey Mitchell must accept that her immense scoring talent is best utilized within the flow of an offense orchestrated by Caitlin Clark, not in defiance of it. The social contract of this team must be rewritten, and it must be enforced with absolute, uncompromising authority. If they do not make these choices, if they continue down this path of structural sabotage, Caitlin Clark will not just lose games. Her fundamental joy for the sport will be broken, and that would be the greatest tragedy of all. This is WNBA time. We read the tape, we expose the structure, and we do not deal in excuses. If you demand real, unapologetic basketball analysis, hit the subscribe button. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Who bears the ultimate responsibility for this collapse? The player forcing the issue, or the coach allowing it to happen? We will see you in the next breakdown.